I suppose if we were thinking about it, we were worried that perhaps there was going to be a drop from previous years, given the fact that the last two sets of results have not been externally assessed. They've been, first year was CAGs, so centre assessed grades, and then the next year was TAGs, teacher assessed grades. So those students that got those grades the last 2 years didn't actually sit public examinations. So we were expecting, I suppose, or wouldn't have been surprised if there would have been a drop from those. 2 years ago there was a 91% pass rate across all three institutions, and this year we see a 95% average across all three institutions. So in the CAGs it was a 91%, in the TAGs it was a little bit higher, it was 97%. But if you look at individual subjects and the performance of those, our three institutions have done brilliantly. In addition, in the years prior to the pandemic, so the last formally externally assessed exams in 2017, 18 and 19, we had overall grades of 92%, 94% and 94%. So 95% is an increase from the last external examinations. So I think our three centres can be extremely proud of those achievements, and in particular the students themselves for achieving those grades.
Anything in particular that you put it down to, anything that you think might have contributed to this result?
I think it's a number of things. I think probably if there was a chance that grades were going to be lower than previous years, that would have signified perhaps that the last two sets of results were not indicative of true performance of students. Now, in the last 2 years, the JCQ, the Qualifications Council in UK, has given very strict and very clear guidance about how to award teacher assessment grades and centre assessment grades. If schools undertook that carefully and followed the advice, you would hope that in keeping with previous students' cohorts results and future students' cohorts results, you gave your current students grades that were deserving of their ability, but also truthful to past performance and future performance. Not an easy task, but JCQ gave very, very clear guidance. We worked very closely with the SLT and with the schools. Schools worked very hard in undertaking the CAGs and the TAGs process, and I think what it's clear is that our teachers have done a sterling job of awarding grades that reflected students' abilities for what they were capable of achieving, but also in the context of prior performance and future performance. So I don't think our exam results in the last 2 years were inflated. And I think they are indicative of very good teaching and assessment process and very good students.
I think they've responded remarkably well, because as a cohort they didn't do their GCSEs, they missed out on learning time, then the application process for universities has been very hard for them. Universities have asked for very, very high grades, and yet they've risen to the challenge, they've worked hard and they've done remarkably well. So very, very pleased with how they've done and how they've coped. They've taken advice, and to be honest, we couldn't ask anything of them. I'm extremely proud of them as a group. They've been amazing.
In the last couple of years we have had quiet playgrounds here on results day. A few years before that we had throngs of students waiting for their results. There's less of that today. They're getting their results online. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a positive because when they get the results at 9 o'clock, they get the results, and if they're successful, that's it. But if they haven't got a place, they can go on to clearing straight away. There's no time wasted. When they had to come to school, collect the results, then they had to return home and do whatever, they were wasting maybe half hour, maybe a full hour before they could get onto clearing. We knew at 8:30 this morning, we knew how many students didn't have a place, how many students needed to go through clearing, so we were ready for that. And when the calls came in and the emails came in, we knew what to say, we knew what to tell them. So we've also posted lots of advice telling them, this is what you need to do, be prepared. And I know that some of the ones that didn't have a place at 9 o'clock had a place by 9:30. So the fact that they were home, I think, is a plus. And it's quiet playground, it hasn't been quiet inside, because the support team have been working really, really hard to get things ready for them.
We timed how long it would take for all the results to go through for this morning, and it was 18 minutes. So in fact, by 9:18, 9:19, everybody had got their results, and they could then sort of accept offers, go into clearing if they needed to, get alternatives. So from the point of view of students and the way forward for them to take some action, I think it's an excellent system. If they wanted to be with their friends, they could have sleepovers, they could open their emails together, but we are happy with the system we have in place. And then of course, once those exam results were out, then we were in email communication with those that needed to contact us, phone communication as well, and that is what the teams of teachers who are inside are actually doing as we speak. One of the most important things here and the learning experience has been that although they have faced, students and staff and parents have faced many challenges because it's not been easy, we have success. I think all of them are success stories, and I need to thank all of my students. I need to thank excellent staff, excellent members of staff and parents, for being so patient, for being so mindful of everything that we've had to face, for all the challenges, and for reaping now, the success stories.
The statistics have shown that there's been an increase in pass rate, which is excellent, given the disruptions that we've had due to COVID. This cohort is the first one. They have not sat their GCSE exams, so for them it was more of a challenge than in other years. But we need to admire their resilience and their perseverance, and they have completed their program, and they've done remarkably well. Their teachers have been there to guide them, and they made sure that there's been continuation in their learning despite all the disruptions that we've had in the past year. Particularly difficult was January and February with a lot of absences, but so they've done remarkably well. The technical subjects have had very, very high results, and then if we look beyond statistics, we can see the individual achievement of students. We are very proud of the forward progress that they've made, and we need to look at improvement and added value. And on an individual basis, we've had quite a number of success stories.
We probably underestimate what 2 years is worth in the lifetime of a 16, 17, 18-year-old. For those of us who've been through school before and teachers in the school, we've all been through this before. We all know what A-levels are about. We know the tension of today. But for this particular group of students, deprived as they were of the opportunity to do GCSEs, this is a really special day. They've worked really hard, and somebody external beyond the school for the first time in 3 years has made judgments about them. And as you can hear behind me, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of celebration. They've done incredibly well, and we're really proud of them.
And your own feelings on the scores in general?
Yeah, I mean, as the press is suggesting in the UK, there's been an attempt to return to normality in terms of grades. And undoubtedly, over the last 2 years, grades have increased when they've been down to teacher assessment or centre assessed grades as they were 2 years ago. And there's a slight dip in results this year. But actually, for this cohort, given what they've been through, we're incredibly proud of them. Over a third of our grades are A and A star at the top end, but we're looking at the vast majority of our students getting into their first choice university, which is the most important thing.
And new era for the students that have just had their exams, but we are getting the electronic results these days, which we didn't have previously. Do you think that something's been lost, or are you still glad that you're able to offer the opportunity for students to gather and get their results together?
Yeah, I think this year's been a lot tighter. So UCAS, where most of the students are going to go on to higher education from this school. UCAS this year have been really tight with their information, and the students are only now finding out about whether they've been accepted. In schools we know a little bit earlier, we know the results a little bit earlier, but that sort of sense of excitement and actually coming to school to get your results, I think it's a real moment in time which we ought to celebrate, and we ought to be there for students to help them cope with the success but also the disappointments. There'll be some students today who are disappointed, there'll be some students today who need our support, and we're there as a school to help them with that. You can't do that online as well. You can, but it's not as effective as actually having face-to-face conversations.